Good morning, dear viewers, and everyone who's watching us through KTV2. Welcome to a new episode of your morning program, Good Morning Kuwait. And today, as always, we have various segments and special guests that we are so pleased to have them with us this morning. So please keep watching us till the end of the episode. So hello and good morning, Aziz.
Good morning, Sarah, and good morning, our working crew, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to your show, Good Morning Kuwait. Today, we'll be with you from now until 10 a.m. with a variety of segments and even several reports. Today, we have an exciting also, we call it about the segments. So when we speak about the segments, the working crew prepares something special.
For sure, we have lots of reports and exciting segments, the weather forecast, latest news, and much more.
And today we have also guests who are already particular in their fields. So we'll have also, first of all, about medicine.
About medicine, Dr. Mohammed Al-Musawi, a consultant in internal medicine, will explain more about the summer season daily activity and how to avoid the dehydration with enough proportion of vitamin D.
And we'll introduce also you Mr. Hassan Al-Masri. He's a financial and technical analyst, one of those professional in the financial and also stock markets world. So today our episode, medicine and even financial.
Exactly. So let's talk about medicine since we started the summer season and we are living in very hot weather. And they say that today is going to be the longest day ever, like 14 hours. So we have really hot weather and lots of sun for today. We're going to talk about dehydration, how to keep hydrated, how we keep ourselves healthy during the summer season. So Aziz, I know a lot of people, they lack of exercises because they say it's really, the weather is really hot. So we cannot do some exercises. They feel dizzy. They feel they want to just sit at home, like under the air conditioner. So Aziz, how can actually we keep ourselves healthy or maintain ourselves?
You just will have to be stuck on the diet, and even if you can do home exercise without weights, it's easy to them to just to check through the social medias to do like home exercises for 20 or 25 or even 30 minutes.
Exactly.
To keep themselves always like their body always like in the diet way.
And also let's get some benefit from summer fruits. We have watermelon, for example, orange, strawberries. We have to drink too much fluids, especially water. I know a lot of people, they don't like the taste of water. It's really strange, Aziz, but we have to drink a lot of water during the day, especially when we are working in the day.
Yes, so speaking about the work and even more, you already mentioned about the weather forecast.
Yes, exactly. So dear viewers, how about to check the weather forecast and they'll be right back to you. Well, as we say, dear viewers, we have plenty of reports and exciting segments. So let's talk about Kuna, dear viewers. So how about to check the Kuna segments and we'll be right back to you.
We are back to our show again. Good morning, Kuwait. Now it's time for Kuwaiti News Agency. Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Mish'al Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah inaugurates the first ordinary session of the 17th term of the National Assembly.
Kuwait PM government to take serious steps to establish 19-kilometer economic zones in north and west and south Kuwait.
Kuwait is the close and solid partner of the international community in combating terrorism, and affirmed the assigned foreign minister addressing the third high-level UN conference for heads for intelligence and anti-terrorism agencies, Assistant Foreign Minister for Development and International Cooperation Ambassador Hamad Al-Mish'an arrested Kuwait's commitment to support the diverse international mechanisms for combating terrorism.
Kuwait crude oil gained 82 cents during Monday's trading sessions to reach 77.93 per barrel. Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, the KPC, announced percent crude dropped 48 cents to 76.13 per barrel, and West Texas Intermediate lost 49 cents to 71.29 per barrel. This is all the news we have for today, dear viewers. Don't go away. Let's have this little break and then we'll move on.
We are still in our show, Good Morning Kuwait. Even at that time in our show, we have also preparing for you something special. And today our working crew, especially in our show, Good Morning Kuwait, we have also local reports and even international reports.
Exactly. So let's talk, dear viewers, about submersible. U.S. and Canadian ships and planes search for submersible that went missing off the coast of southeastern in Canada.
The submersible was taking tourists to explore we call the wreckage of the Titanic when it already went missing area yesterday. So let's watch this following report. I will be right back again.
A search is still underway for a missing submersible with 5 people on board that was touring the wreckage of the Titanic. British billionaire Hamish Harding is among the missing, according to social media posts. US and Canadian ships and planes continued to circle around the site near Newfoundland on Monday. Crews on board a Boeing P-8 aircraft, originally for anti-submarine warfare, dropped sonar buoys to locate the vessel, which lost contact with ships above on Sunday. US Coast Guard Rear Admiral John Major said they've also been reaching out to commercial vessels for help.
The location of the search is approximately 900 miles east of Cape Cod in a water depth of roughly 13,000 feet. It is a remote area, and it is a challenge to conduct a search in that remote area, but we are deploying all available assets to make sure that we can locate the craft and rescue the people on board.
Submarine operator OceanGate Expeditions said it lost contact with the vessel itself called the Titan 1 hour and 45 minutes after it began diving towards the Titanic. Authorities say it's still unclear if the sub has surfaced or if it's still underwater, but they said it could stay submerged for 96 hours. Titanic historian Larry Daly said on Monday he was hopeful the missing sub could be found.
Deep submersible diving is very dangerous, but it's high tech, and as each year goes by, the equipment gets better, the technology gets better, and so on. So I'm very hopeful and very positive. I was in the sub for 12 hours. We have our own breathing system on board, and if that's maintained properly, like changing your filter and your CO2 scrubber, you can stay down there for quite a few hours.
The British billionaire Harding was identified as being on board by what appeared to be a social media post from his stepson. Harding himself had also posted on Facebook that he would be aboard the sub, and there have been no further posts from him since. The expeditions to see the British passenger liner that famously sank in 1912 after it struck an iceberg cost $250,000 per person. The trips set out from St. John's, Newfoundland, before heading out roughly 400 miles into the Atlantic to the wreckage site.
So we came back again, dear viewers, with our first guest, dear viewer, Dr. Mohammed Al-Musawi, a consultant internal medicine, will explain more about the summer season's daily activity and how to avoid dehydration with enough provision of vitamin D. So, dear viewers, how about to check this report before welcoming our guest?
Today's topic is dehydration. Dehydration occurs when more water and fluids leave the body than enter it. Even low levels of dehydration can cause headaches, lethargy, and constipation. The human body is roughly 75% water. Without this water, it cannot survive. Pauses. Sometimes dehydration occurs for simple reasons. You don't drink enough because you're sick or busy, or because you lack access to safe drinking water when you're traveling, hiking, or camping. Other dehydration causes include diarrhea or vomiting, severe acute diarrhea, that is, diarrhea that comes on suddenly and violently, can cause a tremendous loss of water and electrolytes in a short amount of time. The problem worsens if you have a fever, in addition to diarrhea and vomiting. Excessive sweating. You lose water when you sweat. If you do vigorous activity and don't replace fluids as you go along, you can become dehydrated. Hot, humid weather increases the amount you sweat and the amount of fluid you lose. Increased urination. This may be due to undiagnosed or uncontrolled diabetes. Certain medications, such as diuretics and some blood pressure medications, also can lead to dehydration, generally because they cause you to urinate more. Signs and symptoms. The body's initial responses to dehydration are thirst to increase water intake and decreased urine output to try to conserve water loss. The urine will become concentrated and more yellow in color. As the level of water loss increases, more symptoms can become apparent. The following are further signs and symptoms of dehydration. Dry mouth. Eyes stop making tears. Sweating may stop. Muscle cramps. Nausea and vomiting. heart palpitations, lightheadedness, especially when standing, weakness, decreased urine output. The only effective treatment for dehydration is to replace lost fluids and lost electrolytes. The best approach to dehydration treatment depends on age, the severity of dehydration, and its cause. For infants and children who have become dehydrated from diarrhea, vomiting, or fever, use an over-the-counter oral rehydration solution. These solutions contain water and salts in specific proportions to replenish both fluids and electrolytes. Children and adults who are severely dehydrated should be treated by emergency personnel arriving in an ambulance or in a hospital emergency room. Salts and fluids delivered through a vein or intravenously are absorbed quickly and speed recovery.
That was really informative report, dear viewers. So speaking about this regard, let's welcome our dear guest, Dr. Mohammed Al-Musawi. So hello and good morning.
Good morning, Sarah, and I'm really happy to be with you again and again. Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure to have you with us in our show.
Thank you.
So we'll speak about the summer season and dehydration and sunstroke actually, and sunstroke and also sunblocks. We're going to talk about that later on. But first of all, let's talk about what is the definition of dehydration, doctor?
Well, the definition of dehydration, according to the recent, I would say, literature, it's a very simple definition. It's either the lack of fluid or the intake of fluid or the extensive loss of fluid. So when this imbalance happens, usually the dehydration happens. We all know that in any person, the percentage of water, for example, in male patient or in male person, it's around 60%, and in female, it's around 55% of the whole body. So taking in consideration these two figures, it's very important and extremely important to know the importance of the water or the fluid inside the human body. So once this, I would say, balance will disturb either the lack of intake or there is an extensive loss of fluid, then the dehydration will occur, and unfortunately the symptom will start according to the degree and the percentage of the dehydration.
So speaking, doctor, about symptoms, can you please elaborate more about those symptoms of dehydration?
As you already saw in the report, which was really an excellent report, honestly speaking, the symptom of dehydration will depend on the percentage of dehydration, and usually it will depend not only on the percentage, usually it will depend on the age of the patient or age of the person, and either male or female.
Yes.
So let us, for example, speak about the two groups which are really at risk of dehydration: the infant or the younger population and the elderly people, or I would say the bedridden or the people who lack the intake of fluids. So speaking about the younger generation or the infants or children, usually the first sign of dehydration is, for example, the lack of urination.
Yes.
So the mother or the father or whatever, let's say the person who's changing the diaper of the infant, he will notice that the urine will become very concentrated, and then the color will change, and even the amount will be very less. Rather than this, we'll see that the children or the infant, the level of consciousness of that specific, I would say, patient, it will be decreased to a very extent. And then the lack of sweating, and even sometimes the lack of response. For example, the mother is used that whenever she's waking the child, he will just respond to her, play with her, smile, cry. All of these, she will notice that there is a decrease, or there is the level of consciousness, I would say, will become very less. Speaking about the elderly population, we'll notice that those elderly patients will have the sign and symptom of dehydration according to the age and according to their activity.
Yes.
For example, the first thing that the children usually, or let's say the son of or the daughter of the patient, will come and say, "Doctor, I've noticed that my father during the last few days, whenever I'm calling him by his name, he's not responding. He likes to sleep for a very long, let's say, hours and hours," which is the unusual behavior. So the change of behavior, this is something very important. And then even the lack of response to the ordinary order, I would say. Also the lack of sweating, the change in the color of the urine, and all the other symptom. Sometimes in the adolescents or in the adult population, especially in the athletes, the people who practice, I would say, heavy exercise, or for example, they are doing an extremely long time exercise during the day and they lose a lot of sweating. Yes. These also will have some symptom like muscle cramps, for example, or even sometimes the attendance to have, let's say, to take rest more than doing more and more exercise during the daytime.
That seems really a dangerous symptoms, doctor. So how actually we can avoid having dehydration?
Well, I would say that the cheapest treatment in the world is to avoid dehydration. You know, drinking a lot of fluid, drinking a lot of water, these things will really avoid dehydration in the whole population. Rather than this, you know, the problem that we are facing with almost all the patients, that they would say that they do not have that extensive, I would say, tendency to drink water. So from that point of view, usually what we advise the patient is to add some, I would say, flavor to the water itself. Thanks God in Kuwait we have many and many of those flavors which are a part of our culture, like rose water and all the other flavors that makes the water really tasty. So this is one thing. The other thing that I usually tell my patient, that if you cannot drink water, then eat water. Eating water, or that phrase of eating water, is really something very simple. So the tendency to eat, let's say, vegetables, or let's say any fruit, and watermelon for example, but except for diabetes patients. Yeah, because it will increase the blood sugar level. But for example, cucumber, beetroot, all of these, as you can see, they contain a very, let's say, large or a huge percentage of water inside those fruits and vegetables.
I know a lot of people, as you mentioned, they don't like the taste of the water. That's why they flavored the water. But some people say, some other people say, I can drink coffee or tea or soup. That includes fluids.
Well, it's considered to be fluid, but unfortunately the extensive drinking of coffee or tea, it contains also caffeine in the other hand. And even sometimes energy drinks, you know, those also drinks contain a very high level of caffeine and sugar, which is really might have an adverse effect on dehydration. Unfortunately, caffeine might increase the blood pressure, and then the tendency to have more and more dehydration will become, or the patient will become at risk at that time. So we really recommend to drink water, or other fluid like juices, or to eat the vegetables and fruits, which is really rich in water.
So this is a message for coffeeholics people.
Oh yes.
So doctor, I know a lot of people, they love staying active during summer season, going to the beaches, some like running outside the doors. They, as you mentioned, they lost a lot of like sweats actually. So what's your message to them? What's your advice to them to stay hydrated?
Okay, this is a very nice question actually. Well, in Kuwait we have one of the, I would say, the most beautiful seashore in the whole world, and enjoying the sea or enjoying the beach activity is a part of our summertime activities. So during this time it's really important to take some precautions. For example, whenever you are intending to go to the beach or to be exposed to the sun, the first thing that you need to do is the sun blocker. And the using of sun blocker, honestly speaking, will avoid sunburn, and in the same time it might decrease the dehydration. Another thing which is also very important is to drink a lot of fluids. Water. Make sure that whenever you are going to the beach or to the swimming pool, to have a small, let's say, amount of water with you, or a small bottle of water. Try to drink like every 30 to 20 minutes, even if it's sips of water, which will really avoid this. Another thing also, which is that during the beach activity or the swimming pool activity and you are exposed to the sun, make sure to eat some also fruits or vegetables during that time. And whenever you are feeling that you are becoming exhausted or you are becoming more and more, let's say, tired,
Yes.
just go to the shade. The using of shade or avoiding the sunlight for about, let's say, a couple of hours, it will not, let's say, ruin out your tanning. We all know that, fortunately, almost all the people here in Kuwait during the summertime, they like to get the tan color and also to get that dark color, which is really something good.
Yes.
But at the same time, make use of the sun and avoid dehydration.
Exactly, and also there is a sunstroke, doctor, that
Yes.
gonna have it
Yes.
during like a tanning, for example. So let's talk more about sunstroke, doctor.
Well, the sunstroke actually it's a combination of some symptom and sign.
Yes.
Actually, the first sign it is the high temperature of the body. We all know that the normal temperature of any human body is around 37.2 to 37.4 Celsius. And whenever that temperature is high because of the over or the extensive, I would say, exposure to the sun, then the chance of getting a sunstroke is really something very high.
Yes.
Another thing, so we've said that the high temperature or the fever, and then the other combination of the sunstroke is the extensive dehydration. So the patient will be feverish and then he will have dehydration, and in the same time he will tend to lose a lot of fluid. So the lack of fluid or the lack of intake of fluid along with the extensive loss of fluid with the exposure of the sun, this is, I would say, the triad of the sun stroke.
Yes.
One thing which is also very important, and we are becoming in the few coming days for the Hajj, and we notice that during Hajj time this is really something very common, and I would really recommend all the people who want to go to the Hajj or to the pilgrim, it's really something very important to drink a lot of water during the activity, especially that the activity of the Hajj, most of the activity, they are in the outer area and they are exposed to the sun.
Yes.
Yes.
So, doctor, what is the right action if someone has a sunstroke? What he or she have to do?
Well, this is a very excellent question, and really it's important not only to the patient but to the person who surround the patient at the time of the stroke. The first thing that you should notice whenever you have a person who is extensively, I would say, exposed to the sun and you suspect that he might have a sunstroke is to check the patient. Is he breathing normally? Is the airways have a facility, let's say, to exchange air? Is the level of consciousness of that specific patient is maintained? Call him by his name. Try to shake him. Try to tap on the forehead, I would say.
Yes.
After that, whenever you are sure that that specific person is, for example, conscious or he's semi-conscious, immediately remove the patient or move the patient to a very shaded area. Avoid the exposure to the sun, and then immediately call the ambulance. While calling the ambulance, we all know that it might take a few minutes. Try to, let's say, expose the patient to some water, or try to put some water on him. Don't ever, never try to let him drink water, because during that time he might be unconscious, or the level of consciousness might be low and he might choke in the water. So try to, let's say, have a water pump and try to just, spread him with some water, and then in the same time try to cover him just to avoid the dehydration or the extensive sweating. And once he regained his consciousness, try to give him something with water and sugar. At the same time, we are trying not only to hydrate the patient, the same thing we are trying to also maintain his energy.
Yes.
So once he's fully conscious, and if the ambulance is there, but this is the best thing to move him to the hospital. But if the ambulance is still not there, try to give him some fluid when he is conscious and something which is sweet.
Yes.
Try to speak with him while the ambulance comes, and then after that, moving him to the hospital. And usually the management of the, I would say, extensive sunstroke will involve IV hydration and other measures.
That's really great steps, doctor. And even they say we have to raise the feet up.
You are right.
Is that really true?
You are right. You are totally right. You know, most of those patients who have, I would say, sunstroke, usually the level of consciousness will be low, or they might lose the conscious. So elevating the leg will push the blood, I would say, in a very simple way.
To the head.
Yes. And then we can regain the conscious in a very small time. One thing which is also very important, that if the patient at that spot he's at risk of fall, let's say, or at risk, or he's in the street, try to move him away from any risk factor that's surrounding him.
Yes.
We all know that, for example, if the patient is a worker in the street and he might be doing some digging or building in some of the building, despite the law in Kuwait, thanks God, during summertime, the law stopped the working during I would say, the highest temperature period during the day.
Yes, that's really great advices and steps. So, doctor, let's talk now about vitamin D, about rumors and all the information about vitamin D. But unfortunately, here in Kuwait, we have very hot sun, so we cannot really expose ourselves to the vitamin D. So let's talk more about it.
Well, vitamin D, it's one of the vitamins which, let's say, make the content of the human body, along with other vitamins, like vitamin B12, B6, vitamin A, vitamin E. But the importance actually of vitamin D is from the content of the muscle, I would say. Most of the time, the muscle and the bone inside the human body depends on calcium and vitamin D. Unfortunately, here in Kuwait, almost all the patients having the lack of vitamin D, despite the fact, almost all the patients will tell me, doctor, we have the sun, the most...
it's burning.
It is. So, maintaining of vitamin D or getting a good level of vitamin D, usually we will maintain it from the sun. The vitamin D, it's presented in the human skin in the inactive form. So, let's say, moving from inactive to active form of vitamin D really needs the exposure to the sun. But unfortunately, here in Kuwait, the time limit of the exposure to the sun, it should be during the early hour of the morning.
Okay.
Unfortunately, here in Kuwait, until 8 o'clock or 8:30, then the sun will be really a burning sun, not a treating sun.
So what is the best timing? You mean
well, it's the early hour of the morning.
From 5 till 7,
yes,
let's say?
exactly. And the patient should expose around 40% of his body to get the benefit of the vitamin D. Well, if we all travel in Europe and all other parts of the global, I would say, and you notice that there, whenever the sun is rising, you will see all the people in the gardens and all the people, even in
this... going outside and have some picnics.
Exactly. Yes. And this is just to get the benefit of the vitamin D.
Exactly.
Speaking about the other source, I would say, of vitamin D, we can see that there is some category of, let's say, food, like, for example, salmon, like, for example, beetroot, spinach. All of these also contain a good amount or a good level of vitamin D, and also the human body can accommodate.
That's really great. You always provide us with lovely, actually, information.
Thank you very
Doctor,
much.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Big thanks and appreciation to our dear guest, Dr. Mohammed Al-Musawi. He's a consultant internal medicine. Only a few dozen flamingos could be seen at the Spanish famous Fuente de Piedra after a prolonged drought forced most migrating birds to avoid the saltwater wetland. We'll take you, dear viewers, to Fuente de Piedra to know more about these critical moments of a flamingo in Spain. So let's watch it together.
We are back to our show again. Good morning, Kuwait. We're moving for our second interview segment today. Our guest today is one of those professionals in the financial and the stock markets world, Hassan Al-Masri. He's a financial and technical analyst who will going to explain for us more about the stock markets and even more about the financial. So hello and good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me again.
You're most welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today on our show, Good Morning Kuwait.
It's my pleasure.
It's a pleasure as us to talk more about the recap on the last week. What do you want to say to us?
Last week, when we were here, I think we were waiting for the unemployment claims reports to come out. So basically, the last week it was a pull and push between Wednesday and Friday. Since on Wednesday we had the unemployment claims coming, all of a sudden it was a positive report which impacted the dollar in a negative way, and it caused a rally in the stock market and the gold. I think we saw an increase on gold for 2%, in the indices for 1%, and the oil went up by 5%. Whereas on Friday we had the indicator of Michigan that shows you the trust of the consumer in the U.S. market, which came out very positive for the U.S. dollars, and it caused the market to crash. We had the indices going back at least for like 3-4%, and also gold and oil. Now, talking on an international level, we have the Nikkei indices, which represents the Japanese stock market. It's sitting now at its time high. Why? Because nowadays the trend is the AI technology, and we all know that AI now is a leading industry in the world. And the companies that are creating this technology, most of them are Japanese. So basically, that's why we are seeing that the Japanese stock market or the Nikkei indices is sitting at or its time high, alongside with the German, which is the DAX.
Nice.
Concerning the oil prices, I think that we're going to see some drop on it because China decided to lower its interest rate like starting from next week.
Nice. So this what comes about the recap. So what about the CPI and even the debt ceiling? What do you want to say to us? I know like this time people eager to know more about what happened in the financial.
The mistake when it comes to debt ceiling and the CPI is that they don't correlate between the two, whereas the correlation between debt ceiling and CPI is at its highest level. We saw that the debt ceiling is being increased by the U.S. government. Okay. So increasing the debt ceiling. This is for the audience to know what is debt ceiling and its effect on the CPI, because CPI it represents the inflation, and what's the relation between them. Increasing debt ceiling, it means flooding the U.S. market with a lot of cash liquidity, which is the U.S. dollars. Flooding the market with U.S. dollars, it will give the power for the consumer to buy more goods. He will have a lot of purchasing power. Buying more goods will cause the demand to go up while the supply is going down, which will inflate the price of these goods. Inflating the price of these goods will cause a total inflation for the total economy in the U.S. market.
And even you mentioned also about the inflation.
Exactly.
So people maybe who's watching us through the KTV2 need to know the meaning of inflation.
Inflation is when you're demanding something, but the supply of that is going down. So basically, like let's say that we are buying cars. Toyota, let's say, as a good. If a lot of people are buying Toyota, but the supply of these cars are going down, basically when the supply goes down, it will cause an increase in the price, because whoever pays higher, he will get the product. So basically, going on that path for a long term, it will cause that product to be overpriced. Overpricing something, it will give you a higher inflation rate in the same country concerning the economical situation in that country.
So it's like it's affect all around the world. It's like a financial, the inflation is affecting all the continents now in the world.
Yes, because like the US dollars is the backup currency. Like if you want to go, if you want to go from a currency to another one, you have to pass by the US dollars.
Yes.
Anyone who travels outside its own country, in order to go from the currency of his own country to the currency of the second country, it has to pass by the US dollars. So everything that happens in the US and the Federal Reserve, it will affect internationally.
Nice. So what about now? It came lately the federal funds. It's already came lately. What do you want to elaborate for this topic?
In the past week, the market was already expecting that the interest rate will be halted. Halted, it means that the Fed will not increase the interest rate. But the sudden thing, or the thing that the market didn't expect, is the hawkish tone of Jerome Powell, which is Fed chairman. And he's responsible of testifying after each FOMC meeting, which when they declare that if there is an increase or not. When he testified, he said, although we stopped increasing the interest rate for this session, but we still have 4 sessions, and we're going to increase it at least twice. So it's like a pull and push game. he's making the expectation of the market being at its lowest level for the investor and the trader.
Nice.
So we're still having 4 meetings, and within these 4 meetings we're gonna increase it twice. So investors cannot be very relieved in the market, and it will be at least like stressing 3-4 months upcoming 3-4 months.
Nice. So now today, usually people in the beginning of the day, they will talk more about we call it the oil and gas now, and even the working group preparing some photos. So what do you expect about the oil and gas for today?
The oil and gas prices nowadays are basically related to the large countries. Like here I'm talking about China, Russia, and the USA. Concerning the oil in specific, in the previous week and this upcoming week, China Republic Bank, they decided for the first time in 10 weeks to decrease their interest rate. Alongside the decrease of the oil working stations in the US. These two together, alongside the OPEC committee, which they said that they will decrease the production of oil, it will cause that the oil prices and even the gas prices will be going down in the near future.
Nice. This is for the near future. So what about the stock market for today? What about the expected? What do you want to say?
What's expected for the stock market on the short and mid-term? Since we already had our reports concerning the unemployment and the CPI and
the previous
and the interest rate, exactly. So the market in general, I'm talking about on higher time frames. Now I'm talking on a technical side. On high time frames, we can see that the market is, as the price action concept, it's being exhausted. Okay. So basically, the purchasing power is being exhausted, and on a fundamental level, before I continue on the technical one, we saw that the stock analyst of the stock market in the USA, they switched the situation of Apple as a company from a buying situation to a neutral situation. Why? Because it's being overpriced. So that indicates alone that Apple is a company within the Nasdaq indices. So if a large company like Apple is being overpriced and now it's gonna be reassessed,
okay,
it means on a fundamental level we're heading towards a correction or a pullback towards a lower levels. On higher time frames, Nasdaq and Dow Jones, which are the indices of the US market, they are in an uptrend. But now we're facing a price action exhaustion, so we might see a small pullback towards lower levels in order to retest support levels like between 34K for Dow Jones and 40K for Nasdaq.
Today we are investing of you, because you are with us here in the studio. We are investing everything about the financial.
Ask whatever you want, it's fine.
Yeah, we talk about the stock market, the recaps, and even more. So what about the gold situation? What do you want to say?
Gold situation in
general.
In general, it has a negative correlation with the US dollar. So anything that affect the US dollar in a positive way, it will affect the gold in a negative way. Because if the cash is weak, you have to store gold. If the cash is strong, you won't invest in gold. On a midterm level, on a higher time scale level, I'm talking on a technical side, gold is correcting. But currently, after the correction move from 2070 now towards it's like I think 90-30 or 90-35, it's approaching a good buying zone between like 90-10 to 80-80 to 1880. So now, for gold, we have to wait for the upcoming weeks to see how it's going to react near the buying zone, which is happening.
When you mention about gold, I see some videos through the social media, some people buying like, small portion of gold. They go to the gold markets, they save it for later. I know it's the time when the gold is high, they're already selling it. So what do you want to elaborate for this thing?
On a personal level, if I want to invest in gold, I don't go or I don't buy gold physically.
Okay.
Because whenever you buy gold physically, you're paying commission.
Okay.
So at least if you want to buy, like, let's say one ounce, it costs $1,930 or $1,930. If you want to buy it, the price in the stock market is $1,930. If you want to buy it from a store, he needs to take commission. Let's say that he took 10 KD or $30. So you will be buying 1 ounce for 1,960, whereas the price is 1,930. So you need to wait at least that the price of gold has to go above 1,960 in order for you to be in profit. Whereas if you bought it from a brokerage company, so you will be owning 1 ounce of gold basically without paying commission. And when it goes to 1,960, you will be already in profit. Whereas if you bought it in real life, you won't be in profit, and you have to wait to go above 1,960.
That's why thank you so much for sharing this information, because you know the videos through the social media about gold are increasing, and especially people eager now to sell and even buy gold. When they are watching the news, they say the high value of gold is increasing, the people coming to sell it and even buying it. So for your information, you have to be a little bit cautious. You have to be patient more until it will reach more than 1,000.
Exactly.
More than 1,000 ounce. So what about we call it, because we spoke more about the stock market and even about the CPI and the others, this kind of information for the viewers, for the people who just want to seek for the financial, what do you want to advise to say to them? Golden advice, people.
Golden advice for anyone who's thinking about going into the trading industry. The trading industry is different from any business you have in the real life. It's hard, it's complicated, but it is a skill. If you acquire it, it's a gold mine. Nowadays, what's being advertised on social media, it's completely opposite what you will be from what you will be living actually and really in the trading industry. The trading industry needs 3 major concepts.
Okay.
Risk management, fundamental analysis, and technical analysis. Whatever is being advertised on social media by the big influencers, where you see Rolex watches, villas, Lambos, Maldives, Dubai, and these things, and they are relating these to the trading industry. As in, you who's watching these videos, he will think that because he's trading in the stock market or he's trading in the financial market as a whole, he got the Rolex, he got the Lambo. So he thinks that it's easy to go into the trading industry, trade, and get profit out of it. It needs discipline. It needs learning. It needs at least 2 years process to be able to learn these 3 major concepts, which are the fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and the risk management.
Amazing. We'd like to thank you today to being with us. For sure, be here again. We'll talk more about the what we call important tips. Thank you so much.
You wanted to ask me about Bitcoin next time.
Next week, inshallah. So special thanks to Mr. Hassan Al-Masri. He's the financial and technical analyst. He already spoke about the financial and too many good tips for the dear viewers. Let's go to this tiny break, dear everyone. We'll be right back again.
Well, that was really a lovely interview with our dear guest, Hassan Al-Masri, and my colleague Aziz was lovely talking about financial stuff.
So yeah, thank you as well. Special thanks to our both distinguished guests. So about my guest Hassan Al-Masri, who spoke about the stock market, the financial, the tips, and even he spoke about how to sell gold in a good time.
That's amazing. And about my dear guest, Dr. Mohammed Al-Musawi, who spoke, as we spoke today, Aziz, in the introduction, about how we take care of our health and maintain our, let's say, health during the summer season, how say hydration, and how we drink too much, not coffee, how too much water actually, and avoid drinking too much coffee and tea and caffeine during a summer season, how to avoid the sunstroke and sunburn and much more. It was really a lovely episode, dear viewers.
That's our episode for today, everyone. Hope you enjoyed our segment. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Have a lovely day and bye-bye.